2025 is approaching, and maybe your resolution is to gamble more. Who's to judge? You can do you. So if you're trying to get back in the game, maybe want some refreshers, these are 5 tips that'll help you dominate low stakes in 2025. Let's get into it. Tip number 5, don't bluff. Or very often, people are gonna call you down way lighter than you're expecting, and you're not gonna be happy about it. The biggest population leak in 1-2 is people overcall and under bluff. So just bet for value and you will be way more profitable. Number 4, speaking of value, bet for thin value. Say you flop third pair, have fourth pair as an under pair, and it checks to the river. Try to put in a sneaky bet on the river. Try to get called, because it's not going to make a lot of sense, and your opponents usually aren't going to be checking strong hands all the way down to the river. Number 3, figure out percentages. This one is pretty self-explanatory. If you flop a flush draw and don't know what the odds of getting a flush draw are, you need to figure that out. You can go to Poker Hand Calculator, type some scenarios and see what happens, or you could just type it in on Google and people will tell you. Or you can do what I did, which was a mixture of Poker Hand Calculator and watching a ton of old poker footage where they show you the percentages themselves. Number 2, fold to aggression. As I said, under bluffing is a thing at 1-2. If you see someone that proves to you they can bluff, then go ahead and call them down a little lighter. But always assume they have it, because most of the time they usually will, and in the long run, folding is profitable. And before we get into the number 1 tip to dominate low stakes, I just want to reiterate for all the vlog watchers, the vlog on the 31st that I've been talking about is going to be the craziest vlog I've ever created. I've never had a session like that. I play at a new poker room I've never played at. It got to the point, my second and third hand, I'm all in. I saw 1 out of 600, 1 out of 1,000 runouts back to back. It got to the point where I was wondering, am I being punked? Oh. Oh my God. What the? There were 5 title-worthy hands in 1 hour alone. So on the 31st, you guys won't want to miss it. It's insane. And the number 1 tip to beat low stakes, tilt control and patience. Again, I'm not kidding when I say last year, 2024, I would have made like $10,000, $15,000 in profit if I could have just controlled tilt. Because you will get value, and I played a bunch of hours, but being card dead for 3 hours, having 3-4 bad beats in a very short session is difficult to control. Being patient and controlling tilt, you will make so much money if you do that and bet for value. All right, so now let's get into the vlog. First hand, I'm in the +1 and look down at 7-8 of diamonds at a short-handed table. I have it up to 16 when it gets to me and only get a call from the small blind, who is a guy that can give a ton of action, so I'm really happy about this. And I'm more happy when the flop comes 9, king, 6 with 2 diamonds. We flop an open-ender with a flush draw. When he checks to me, there's no reason to slow down. He could have a king, a pair, and a draw. I bet out for $15, and he calls. The turn is the 10 of hearts, giving us the second nuts. Love to see it. He checks to me again, and I bet out for $40, and again he calls, which is great news. Now I'm putting him on a king, maybe a flush draw, a pair and a draw, but I think he's got something, likely just top pair. The river is a 7, which kind of sucks because now there's a 1-9 or 2 and 8. He checks to me, and I actually go for a big bet here. I bet $100, which is received with a snap fold. My thought process was it's unlikely for me to have an 8, so it should look like a bluff when I bet this big. But then again, like if I have ace king, obviously I'm not doing this sizing, so what are my bluffs? Like ace queen, ace jack, am I 3-barreling with that? I'm not really sure. Probably a mistake with the sizing, but always nice to hit a nutted hand on the turn there and then win the first pot. We've got a big hand coming up here, so prepare yourself. I've got a7 in the cutoff, a7 of hearts. When it gets to me, I pop it up to 15 to get calls from the button, the big blind, and the +2. The flop comes 8, jack 3 with 2 hearts. When it checks to me, I could go back and forth between betting here. I think you don't need to be balanced at 1-2. I don't need to be betting my flush draws. But this time, I feel like I want to, so I bet out for $50. And only the big blind calls, who's a guy that can be pretty crazy. He's got me covered to start the hand, so hitting a flush would be great. The turn is a 10 of spades. He checks to me, and part of the reason betting on the flop, although it sucks into 3 other people, is that likely the turn's going to check to me and I get a free river card. So I do check back. The river is a deuce of hearts. We make the nuts. He checks to me again, and I think this is a really good spot to bet huge because my line makes no sense. What hand wants to bet the flop, check turn, and then bet huge on the river? A flush. So I bet for 110. He goes into the tank. I'm talking for a while. He asked me if I have a flush and then eventually puts in the call. I show him my nuts and we're good. Really happy with how I played that hand. Obviously, if I bet the flop and get check raised, I'm less happy. But worked out great. Always nice to hit the nuts and win another huge pot. Let's go. Next time we look down at ace 10 of diamonds. There's a early position open. I call, a whole bunch of other people call, to a flop of ace 7-6 all rainbow. It checks through to me, and I bet out for $25 since the pre-flop raiser checked. He probably doesn't have an ace. I think I want to thin the field, have the best hand most of the time. The small blind disagrees. He check raises to 60. This is a for-profit reg that has been playing extremely tight the last few months. So when he check raises, I don't think this is 8-9. This is not a draw. I think it's 2 pair or a bigger ace, likely 2 pair. I flash him the ace of diamonds and fold. He says, good fold, buddy, and shows ace jack. What a ridiculously good thin check raise there. I mean, he has me outkicked by 1, but obviously happy about the fold. All right, so I'm a little late to record this next hand. Not really sure why. I opened up ace jack to $12 and only got a call from the cutoff, who's the guy from the ace 7 of hearts hand. So capable player, pretty good. The flop comes king 3-8. And although I'm not big into c-betting with nothing, this guy, it's heads up. So I c-bet for $15 trying to generate folds from pocket pairs or just any hand that could make a pair that has equity against us. But he calls. The turn is the ace of hearts, and now we go from bluffing to value betting. I bet out for $40, and I don't know what it was, but I had the vibe that he just had a big hand on the flop because he really shouldn't be continuing here with anything. Even if he has a king, the ace is not a good card for him, and I did hit it, even though it's in my range. So when I bet out for 40, he puts in the call. The river is a 9 of spades, and I just had the feeling that if I checked, I was going to face a $65, $70, $80 bet, and I really didn't want to do that, maybe even bigger. So I actually throw out a blocker bet of $50, and I get raised to 125. Lately, I've been paying off river bets in spots where I've got top pair plus, and I just feel like I'm beat, but I just can't put it down. I told myself today I wasn't going to do that. There's no draws on the flop. Is he really doing this with a king? I don't think so. I think he flopped a set or somehow has 2 pair, king 8 suited, king 9 suited. So I actually just lay it down. And I got the answer from him weeks later that he said he flopped a set. Didn't say which one, but obviously it had to be 8s or 3s. So apparently we made a good fold. You guys can let me know what you think. Was the blocker bet the right move? Maybe it's a little too big. 40, 35, 45, maybe something like that. But let me know what you think if I played that right. It was a good fold or not. Then we get pocket 10s in the small blind. I 3-bet and open in a call and surprisingly get 2 folds in Texas, which is pretty rare. The next hand, I get 10 deuce of spades. The previous hand, everyone's like, oh, you were making a move. You didn't have anything. And I was like, no, I really had it. So now I'm going to make a real move. It limps around to me when I'm on the button straddle. I'm like, okay, I can try to steal this. I pop it up to 20 and do end up getting 2 calls to 959 rainbow. It checks to me, and I c-bet for $20. The only caller is the cutoff on my right, who's my buddy Jack. He obviously knows that I bluff a lot. That ace-jack comment about not c-betting with nothing was kind of odd because you guys know I do that, so maybe disregard that. He's like, oh, you don't have shit. And I'm like, no, you don't have shit. So when he calls and the turn is the king of diamonds, that's a me card. I have no faith in a million years that Jack can hit this king. So when he checks to me, I continue for $60, and he folds. We get it through with probably the worst hand. We're on the button straddle again with another premium, 10-3 offsuit. It limps around to a flop of 9-8 deuce, and it checks around multi-way in the flop. Turn is a 7, introducing a open-ender for us, so that's good. The +1 bets out for 10. The +2 calls, and obviously I put in the call. The river is a jack. We make our straight. The +1 checks, and the +2 bets out for 10. I go back and forth. I think the +2 has a straight north of 90% of the time, and I want to rope the +1 in with a good price, but I think different of it and end up raising to 30. I think raising is fine. Obviously, we have at least the best hand almost all the time, or chopping at worst. The +1 folds, but then the +2 goes all in for 43. I obviously snap call, assuming we're chopping. I show him the straight, and he just folds. That was really odd. I've had this happen a lot lately, where it's a very obvious straight that I have it, and I've had someone raise me, and I don't understand what's been going on lately, or call me down really light. Maybe it's just my image, but do you guys have that in your games where people just like call bets when there's a 4-liner? And I've had it happen a lot. Anyways, random hand, we win a decent sized pot for no reason, so always love to see that. A couple orbits later, I'm in the cutoff, and there's a button straddle. There's a bunch of callers, and when it gets to me, I've got 9-10 of clubs. I think this is a good enough squeeze candidate. I size up to 30, but boy, I'm going to stop squeezing with crap hands because I've just seen some people, like, I'm talking like you could squeeze to 50. Obviously, it looks like a bluff, but like 2, 3, or 4 callers. These Texas games are just ruthless, okay? So I bet up to 30 and only get a call from the same guy from the last hand, which is a pretty good result. The flop comes 5, jack, 8. So we flop an open ender. Love to see that. He checks to me, and I c-bet for 50, trying to get him off ace, king, queen high. That technically has us beat, even though we probably have an equity advantage. and he folds. We win another like uncontested 50 something dollars. We love to see it. That table is actually getting really dry. Not a lot of money, not a lot of action players. The other 1-2 table, oh my god, look at these stacks. All I can think of is Vegas and the Mirage. If I can get these stacks, I would be up like $5,000. I mean, I have to double up like multiple times through all these guys, but action players, and this might be the deepest I've ever sat at a 300 cap 1-2 table. So let's get into it. Although it's a great table, stuff goes horribly. I basically get bullied for like the next 2 hours. The big stacks are 3-betting me, and I have like nothing. And whenever I get anything, I miss the flop. And I try to fight back and run a few bluffs, and they go horribly. One of which I have 6-10 of hearts and get called down by like third pair on the flop. So not a great time. It actually got so bad to where I was down to like $250 below my starting stack that I said, okay, I'm going to leave in a few minutes anyways. I'm going to stop recording and chill out. And then this next hand happens. I turned off the camera a couple hands ago, and we see pocket aces in a bomb pot, so I'm a little late to recording. When it checked to me on the flop of Queen 9-6 and 5 King 7, I bet out for $35. The button calls, and then under the gun, check raise to 110. This is music to my ears, as no hand can scoop us right now. And under the gun's a guy I talked about before. He's a really solid reg, and he's gotten me many a time, so I'm very much looking forward to some payback. I have like 250-ish left in my stack, and I don't know there's a point to raising. I just call, and the button folds. The turns are the deuce of clubs and the 10 of diamonds. He bets out 200 covering me, and I snap call. He shows king, queen, so we're scooping. I flip over the aces. The rivers are the 7 of spades, and the jack of clubs. We end up scooping him, and we're back into profit just like that. For hours, I was getting bullied by him and other big stacks. It just took one hand to get back on track. The same guy opens to $10, and I look down at pocket jacks. I 3-bet him to 35, and we go heads up to a flop of 9-8-3. What a great flop for pocket jacks. He checks to me, and I bet out for 40, and he calls. And I'm not going to lie, I don't really get nervous playing poker, but this guy, he just has the capability to bluff huge or just have randomly amazing hands when I have a good hand and bet huge. So I am slightly nervous about getting check raised, but he just calls. The turn is a 4, so another great card for pocket jacks. He checks to me again, and not really sure what to put him on. Obviously, we double block Jack 10. Did he really open Ace 9 suited and call a pre-flop with that? It's possible. Could he have 2 sticky overs? I think we have the best hand here most of the time, and I want to deny equity from overs, maybe a pair, hitting 2 pair to draw. So I size up for $75. He does tank for a little bit, and I've seen him do this and then announce just massive raises. So I am a little nervous about that. Maybe he's got pocket 10s. I don't know. But he ends up folding. Actually happy with that result. Little scared money from your boy there, but we would take down another pot, working our way back. The last hand of the vlog is crazy. Some reason I limp called a $5 straddle in the button with pocket 8s, which isn't very me-like. I don't know what I was thinking. There's a bunch of people to the flop of 8 queen, queen. We flop a full house. I don't know about you guys. When I flop full houses multi-way, I tend to check for deception, as I'm not really scared of anything on the turn. I do check, and a lady bets out for $20 in late position, and only I call. The turn is the 5 of spades. It was actually a good card, I think. There was 2 spades on the flop, so now the flush draw completes. I thought she either had a queen or a flush draw. I checked to her, and she continues to bet for $25. It's just not big enough in comparison to how much she has in her stack, and I want to get it in on the river. So I raise her to 60, and she just goes all in for around 120. Obviously, I snap call, and she shows the nut flush. The river doesn't even matter, and we win another solid pot. That ended up being the last notable hand of the vlog. We were in for 300, out for 743 in about 4.5 hours of play. That last table, I usually don't play that long, but it was such a good table, and I was so card dead and getting my butt kicked for like 2 hours, and we finally caught lightning for 3 hands in like a 15-minute period. Got us all the way back up into a decent profit, so really happy about that. If you guys could subscribe, like, and comment, really helps the channel, helps me make better videos faster. If you have any ideas about how I could have played any of the hands, let me know. And don't forget, December 31st, I have a really cool video coming out. Not clickbaiting you guys at all. It's absolutely insane. So that's it. See you guys later.